Hey folks, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today in the channel, we are taking a quick look at a dead collectible card game, and that is the Tomb Raider collectible card game. And I thought this would be a good time to take a look at this game. I've had this game for many years, and right now there is that Kickstarter for the solo Tomb Raider adventure game, and I am really excited for that. I wanted to get a review copy so I could show you all, but I never heard back from the designer or the publisher. And the Tomb Raider video game, the first one that I played on the original PlayStation 1, that's one of my favorite games of all time. I absolutely love that game, and I even like some of the newer Tomb Raider games, the ones that are more focused on survival. But one of the things I loved about Tomb Raider is just how good it emulated that kind of pulp adventure that I love, and that kind of Indiana Jones style adventure, the freedom of movement, overcoming traps and obstacles. Combat was kind of sparse, but it was also deadly. So there's a lot of things about Tomb Raider that really jive with what I enjoy in games. And this collectible card game is somewhat interesting, although I do think that the decision to make it a collectible card game is really the worst thing about the game, because you have to buy blind booster packs in order to get the cards that you want to play. This game does focus on competitive, I think one-on-one, but you can also play it solo. There are solo rules, they're pretty basic, but a lot of times when you get booster packs, you might open them up and none of the cards you get are for the solo mode. They're all for the competitive mode. And speaking of booster packs, I do have some unopened booster packs here, so we will open up some of those live on camera. Maybe I'll get a foil Charizard or something. Wouldn't that be weird? Yeah, so this game is okay. I think it does some neat things, and I think this is a really good example of a game that did some neat things that I wish would have been more influential in the adventure and dungeon crawl arena, so that we could see the neat things that it does implemented in a better way. And I think one game that does what this game did better is Dungeoneer. And Dungeoneer is a game that we will take a look at some time. But back in the early 2000s, this was one of the only kind of dungeon crawl games you could get. It was like this and Descent and Runebound. We didn't have all of the other games that like we have now. And so Dungeoneer was pretty special. When I was getting back into games in this kind of third or fourth phase of this hobby, Dungeoneer was one of the only games that we had in this space. And so I played quite a bit of it. And this is a pretty cool game that also focuses on a kind of competitive dungeon crawling, but also has some pretty decent house rules that other people have gone and made better. But let's take a look at Tomb Raider. So the nice thing about Tomb Raider is if you want to get into this game, it hasn't become crazy collectible. It hasn't become expensive. And so you can get a nice little collection of cards for not a lot of money. And there are a ton of sets and cards on eBay. Tons of unopened booster packs. You can still get tons of the starter decks. And so if you want to get into it, the barrier to entry is not high. Now, there were 2 original sets, and then I think there were also 2 expansions. I only have the stuff from the original sets. And so we have our 2 starter decks here. Those are called quest decks, and each player will need a quest deck, because the quest deck will come with your little Lara Croft standee that you can use. It'll come with your D6. It'll come with a sheet of tokens that you need, and it will come with the full kind of basic complement of cards that you will need to create your decks. And so the 2 that I have are Into the Caves quest deck and Trapped in the Tombs quest deck. And then each one of those boxes will also come with your rule book here. So the Tomb Raider starring Lara Croft collectible card game, your official rules. I think the official rules are pretty well written. However, I do recommend, if you want to get into this game and you're looking for just some rules that have been better organized and kind of cleaned up a little bit, to head over to this YouTube channel, and it's youtube.com/@DanLooksAtStuff. He's got a really in-depth kind of a 6-part guide to how to play this game. And he also has linked in the description for those videos his rewrite of the rules, including the solo rules and everything that you would need to play. So this is really handy and I do recommend that. But let's take a look at the cards that you will get and the kind of decks that you need to create for Tomb Raider. Oh, I should also say that each of these first 2 quest decks also comes with this really flimsy, thin piece of paper for your depth tracker. And the depth tracker goes from 1 to 6, and then if you want to get crazy, you can go all the way up to plus 12. But this keeps track of how deep into each dungeon you are. And as you move deeper into the dungeon, the danger level grows and your opponents can play more difficult cards on you to overcome. Or you can, when you're playing solo, that will dictate the blind draw that you do from your obstacles deck that will have to match or exceed the danger level for the deepness that you go, so the depth that you go. So we'll talk a little bit about that. One of the things you will get is you will get character cards. And again, since these are kind of, this was a CCG, these will be randomly distributed in your booster pack. So if you're looking for other characters, you have to buy a bunch of boosters. I don't like that. But each of the core sets comes with one Lara Croft. So we have Lara Croft Spelunker and Lara Croft Treasure Hunter. And then each one of these character cards does have a number of different abilities. So we have the fight mode or the fight ability, we have the move ability, we have the search ability, and the think ability. And those dictate how many dice you get to roll. And so if I was doing some kind of challenge to overcome that, that search ability, the green, and every turn you can search for treasure, I would roll 3d6, then I would total those numbers and I would look at the target number and I'd have to meet or beat that target number. These characters start at power level 1. You can level up your character as you are playing by discovering save points where you can save, and then you can play these power up cards on your character to level them up to, I believe it is level 3. But again, sometimes you just maybe won't have other characters. Some of the characters also have additional abilities, such as the skateboard kid here. They have a better chance of finding the Uzi if you have the Uzi in your deck for when you make a search action. One of the other main decks that you will use are the locations, and these are the levels. And there are a whole bunch of different ways to create levels. You can create a level that takes place only in a certain environment. And I believe in the cards that I have, there are 3 different environments. We have our caves, we have our tombs, and the main booster packs for this first series comes with Atlantis locations. And so these are all locations that focus on Tomb Raider 1. The 2 expansions, those went into, I think it was Tomb Raider 2, where there's lots of underwater, like an underwater ship and that kind of thing. I think that was called Slippery When Wet. So they introduce a wetness mechanism into the game. But depending on the scenario that you're playing, I guess it's not really a scenario, but there are different ways to set up the game depending on the locations that you want to use and how you will set it up. So we have a whole bunch of different ways to set up the game. We have different levels, so into the caves, trapped in the tombs, death by design, and then when you get the other sets, you can construct your location decks in other ways. I like to play the freestyle mode, where I just mix in 1 copy of each of the locations. And so this is my location deck. And so I have, locations like secret rooms, the wellspring, the chasm, the overlook, engraved passage, a sharp T, the bat cave, and so on. So these are pretty cool. Now, each one of these location cards will have a certain number of arrows, and those dictate the exits from that room that you can take to further explore. They will also have a danger level, and so this is a +1. So if you were to play this card here, the Wellspring, at depth 4, then the danger level is 5. And so you would have to play a matching obstacle card of 5 or higher. We also have a modifier to the search action, and those are in the green circle there. And so if I was searching for something in the wellspring, I would add 0 to my total. And again, if I were to roll 3d6, searching in the wellspring, I would have a search total of 9 there. Some cards will add a greater bonus to search and so on. But these cards are pretty cool. And this is one of the things I like, is because you can pre-design a dungeon for somebody else to go through in a competitive way. So players with a lot of different location cards could make a really cool dungeon, and then you could compete against somebody to see who can find the treasure the fastest. And that's one of the main things you're doing. You will also need an entrance card, and so I only have 2 entrance cards because these are the 2 sets I have, my cave entrance and my tomb entrance, and these are always in play, and you can choose either one. They are basically the same, and you will always be able to move either north, east, or west from your location, because those start at depth 1, and then you can never go below depth 1. So let me see if I can get this up here, this stupid depth tracker here. So we have at depth 1, we will place our location, our entrance down there. And then we also have the room that we are looking for, and those are the treasure rooms. So we have a treasure cave and a treasure vault. And these will dictate that they need to be played on a certain depth. So if you were to flip over the treasure vault at depth 2, you couldn't play that yet. You would have to mix that back in and wait until you were at depth like 3 or 4 in order to find the treasure cave. And then you also have these treasures, and these are what you're looking for. Now, these treasures can be used as items for subsequent games. So if you're playing more than one level in a single game, then the person who finds this treasure will have a bonus going into the next game. But I'm just going to I'll place my tomb entrance here. We'll play that we are using the treasure vault as our treasure room. And I'm going to say that in this example that we're playing a level that is 6 deep and 3 wide. So we need a total of 18 cards minus 2 there. So we need 16 additional location cards. So let's give those a quick shuffle. Let's give those a cut. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. We will take our treasure vault and we will shuffle that into our deck there. Give that a cut, and then we can place that off to the side. We also have here our obstacle cards, and when you are playing solo, you take all of your obstacle cards out of whatever card decks you're using, and you make a obstacle deck. And these are traps and creatures you have to fight, and different things that the Tomb Raider that Laura will have to overcome. We have bats, we have a dart trap, we have wolves, a pit trap, we have a bear. So all the kinds of things that you would see in the first Tomb Raider here. And you take all of these and you shuffle them up, and this is the pile that you will draw obstacles from as you are exploring. And so here we have the danger level. So again, danger level of 2 or higher if you are in depth 2. The bats is a danger level of 3, so I can't play the bats until I reach at least depth 3. If you're playing competitive, then these would also be mixed into your draw deck, and you would have a hand of cards, a hand of obstacle cards mixed with a hand of discovery cards, and then you could play those on your opponent. And so that's kind of cool, and that is kind of like Dungeoneer. In Dungeoneer, each of the players was kind of acting as the dungeon master, as the Dungeoneer for the other players. And so as the explorer, as the heroes were exploring one room from one room to the next, they would generate a series of peril points and a series of boons and banes, basically. And boon points, those were points that you could spend to play good things on you. And the peril points, the bane points, those were points that your opponents could spend to play bad things on you. Really a cool system. I really do think that Dungeoneer is just a better version of the Tomb Raider collectible card game in just about every way. But here we have our obstacle deck, and so we can draw from that. And I kind of have a little modified solo rule that I play with that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's go ahead and pick our character to play. I will use Lara Croft Spelunker. So we'll place her over here. Now from your character, you have kind of 2 rows of item cards. Before you save your game, your item cards go below your character. And those items are not saved. Those are not permanently attached to your character until you find a save point. At that time, you can move your cards from your bottom row to your top row, and then those items are saved. What that does is that prevents you from losing all of your items when you die. When you die, you lose any of your items that haven't been saved yet. So that's kind of the importance of that. Okay, then finally, for the solo rule, we have our discovery cards and we have our action cards. And these are the cards that will comprise of your draw deck will be comprised of. And these are the cards that you will draw into your hand to discover things and to take special actions. And so I'm playing in kind of a freestyle mode. I'm playing with a deck of about 60 cards. And that means that I can have 3 copies of each of these cards in my deck. So here we have our save points. So these are things that you have to discover, and you have to roll that number of dice, so 3. So Laura Cross Spelunker can roll 3 on a search action, and then you have to meet or beat that target search number in order to bring that card from your hand onto the table. So that is a little weird, you know, you're at the mercy of the D6 in a very, very kind of competitive collectible card game. I think that can be an issue because you may not ever roll the 8. I mean, the gods of the RNGesus may be completely against you for the entire game, and there's nothing you can do to even hit that 8. And so that can be somewhat frustrating, especially in a competitive game. And so I think in the solo game, it's a little augmented, it's a little lessened, that frustration, but that can happen. And so these are the different things that I can discover that I have in my deck when I take a search action. I have a flare, a backpack, a leather jacket, a rusty key, a medipack. I can find certain types of doors and hidden exits so I can quickly move around the map. I can use my rope to overcome some of those pit obstacles. I can find binoculars to help me scout. I can find my dual magnum pistols in order to help me fight. And then we also have these blue cards, and these are special actions. Now, a lot of the actions are actually made for the competitive mode, and they will mention other Tomb Raiders. And so I have in my my cards that I'm not using a whole bunch of actions that you really can't use in the solo mode. So again, this game isn't necessarily made for solo, it just has solo play. And like I've said before, I have opened one booster pack before, and every card was a competitive action card. And so if I was buying this only to play solo, which I did, you know, I could just never use those cards. So all of the competitive cards I just keep in one box there because I'm not going to use them. I'm also going to put my level up cards, which we've already looked at. But yeah, these are different actions that you can take. So an action before a fight test, you could play this card. A good shot. Play when you cause damage to do 1 additional damage. Just made it. Play after you roll any test. Add 1 to your result. Snoop ahead. Before you explore a new location, before your opponents play obstacles. This is still a solo card. Draw the next location instead, so you can kind of scout ahead. Run allows you to move an additional location. The way through, you can find a certain a secret location. So these are all special actions that you can take. And so to build your solo play deck, I will take my discoveries, I will take my actions, I will shuffle those together. And so now this becomes my draw deck. Now at the beginning of the game, for your initial hand is quite small. It's based off of your think value, and my think value here is 2. And so I can only have a hand of 2 cards at the beginning of the game. If you ever are at the draw step and you don't have any cards in your hand, during the game, you can draw 2 times your level or 2 times your think value. But the nice thing about this game is when you are playing, when you are starting the game, you get to choose the starting cards in your hand. And so let me take a look here. I'm not going to be too careful about this because I just want to do something quickly for this demonstration. So I'm just going to take the top 2 cards. So in my hand now I have a rope and I have the way through. The rope takes a discovery roll of 8 or higher, and to discard from play, then remove a pit obstacle or any other obstacle with a rope icon. Okay, and then this action here is the way through. Play instead of a normal search. So during the search phase, I could play this card. Your location must be unable to link to the treasure room. Roll a die. On a 4, 5, or 6, add an exit to this location in any direction. So some of the location cards only have certain directions that you can move from into new places. But if you search for secret exits, you can actually add these exit tokens. Sometimes you can block exit tokens because you don't want your opponent to get into the treasure room or something like that. We have these search tokens that if you search a room, you can only search each location one time, and then you put an empty token on there. These different numbers are used when you upgrade or you take damage to your character's stats. We have these save tokens. When you find a save location, you can put a save token there to show that you can save your game there. Okay, so we'll take our little yellow Laura, put her in the tomb entrance, and now I can go to the north or I can go to the west. And so the first thing we do is a movement phase. My movement is 3, so I can move up to 3 locations. But when you move into an empty, unexplored location, that ends your movement. I will go ahead and move to the north here. So we'll draw our movement card. Now, the arrow pointing down towards the card, that always has to match the entrance where you are moving from. So we found this jagged cavern. This is an Atlantis location. That's a really high damage level. That's at 4, and this is in depth 2. So now the danger level for this location is 6. But I also have a very high search bonus there. When this location is explored, search the explorer's deck for the first obstacle that meets the danger requirement and play it on this location, in addition to normal obstacles. So there will always be an obstacle here of at least 6 or higher. So let's go ahead and take our, that's the location deck. Let's go ahead and take our obstacle deck and let's look for something that is 6 or higher. So, all right, so that's the first one, is a gap. And now we also, because we're playing solo, we need to randomly draw a card. The normal solo rules say to draw until you can play a card, but that doesn't really simulate that maybe my opponent doesn't have any cards that they can play. And so what I do is I draw up to 3 cards, and then if one of those can be played, I play it. So we are at a danger level of 6. So the bear is an 8, so that's too high. The wolves are a 6, so we can play that. So now we have 2 obstacles. We move into here. Now we have 2 obstacles that we need to overcome. We need to fight the wolves, or we need to avoid this gap, this trap. We need to jump over this bridge. It's a 9 think or 13 move. If you are hit, you are stuck. If you're stuck, you can't search on your turn. You may choose not to encounter the gap. If you choose to avoid this test, you cannot search, and you may only move backwards. So this is kind of maybe a dead end that we can't get over. Let's go ahead and try the gap first. I need a 9 think or a 13 move. Wow, that's really tough. And I don't have any bonuses. This doesn't have a rope. This has a torch, which could help me. I can't use my rope to swing. And so I'm just going to have to roll 13 on 3d6 because my move value is 3. So 3d6 and oh yes, a 14. Okay, so we overcome that gap. However, this does not get removed. This stays with the card until that location. So that location always has a gap now. But now we have to fight these wolves. The wolves have 2 life, hit and stuck if fail. We have to roll an 8 fight or an 11 move. I'm going to try an 11 move. I'm going to try to avoid the wolves here. Maybe I can make them smack up against the wall as I jump out of their way. And there is 11 and 14. Okay, so we do 1 damage to the wolves. So we can place a damage token there. They have 1 more. They have another health because they have 2 life. So I need to do that again. And man, I'm rolling great. So we kill the wolves and now we can discard that discovery. Unfortunately, you don't really gain any kind of experience points. I wish you gained something when you overcame the different obstacles, but that's just how it goes. And now we're at our search phase. So now we can search. So I can search for this rope and I can search. I need an 8 or higher. So I will take my search action. My search is 3. And I also have a +3 for being in the jagged cavern. So I need an 8 or higher, and 6, 7, 8, 9. 12. So I have a 12. I can play any card in my hand that has a 12 or under search value. So I can take this rope and I can put the rope down here. It is an unsaved item. If I die, I will lose my rope. But now I do have this rope that I can use to overcome any obstacle that has the rope icon. And that's basically how you play. You move from one location to the next. Sometimes you will have different dead ends. You might have to search for a secret exit. If you find a secret exit, you can put an arrow there, and then you can keep going until you find that location. You find that treasure, you do the final challenge at that treasure, and then whoever does that first wins. And that's basically the game of Tomb Raider, the collectible card game. There's some cool things going on. The main drawback is just the fact that it's collectible. They should have just released this as a card game where you could buy your full sets of Atlantis or the caves or the tombs, and then you wouldn't have to worry about maybe not getting the cards that you wanted. They could offer a solo pack, but I think when this came out, I think this was early 1999. But yeah, they were really trying to jump on that trend, trying to ride that Magic the Gathering wave for sure. And I don't know, I don't think this game ever got popular. I don't believe, I would say probably in the late 90s, the crossover between tabletop gaming and video gaming probably wasn't as big as it is now. You know, now people who are into one are often into the other, but I think in the late 90s, there was still kind of a separation of the hobbies. And so I don't know if they drew in any video game players by making this based off of a very popular video game. But let's open up some booster packs and see what we have. So I bought 14 booster packs. I think it was like $20 or something. I think each of these goes for about $10 or so. You can buy whole boxes of starter sets. So it's not super collectible, which is nice. All right, cool. We have another character. This is my first extra character beyond that skateboard kid. We have the Bald Man. Attention to detail. So that is a card that I can play solo. A new location, the Atlantean Lair. The Atlantean Life Amulet. So that is a discovery, a treasure discovery. It takes a 19 or higher. So you'll have to be pretty deep into the dungeon to find that. When you damage a creature, instead of inflicting damage, move the obstacle to an adjacent location. That's kind of cool. Loaded for bear. Play after you roll any test. Add 1 to your test result for each item discovery you have. That's kind of cool. Concentration. Before making any search test, re-roll any die or dice that come up a 1 or a 2, and a push. Play instead of moving to another location, make a move test against another Tomb Raider. So this would be a card that I couldn't use in solo, but I did get some pretty good cards to add to my solo deck, so that's really nice. Let's open up a few more packs here. There are foil cards in here, but the foil cards were really bad quality and they're very hard to read. I have one foil card. I don't even know where it went, but the quality of everything in this game is not super high. All right, so let's see what we pull. Maybe I'll get the super rare card with millions of dollars and I can retire. Ooh, that's cool. Atlantean Lair. That's a new creature. Super cool. Very powerful. Very powerful creature there. Detailed search. Play after you roll a search test at 5. That's really good. It could help you find that life amulet that was very valuable. A rusty key I already have. Atlantean Lair. That is a duplicate already. Steal an item. Play instead of attacking a Tomb Raider. So you can steal an item from another player. So that goes off there. The Achilles heel. Play when an opponent makes a test. That gets discarded. Worst case, you may play 2 obstacles on your opponent's newly explored location. All right, and a flare. And a flare I already have 3 of in my deck. So this deck here only, let's see, only 2 cards that I am excited for in this deck here. But one of those, that Atlantean Laura, I think looks pretty cool. And let's do one more. Let's open up one more. Let me add those to the new cards that I'm excited about. Actually, we'll do 2 more. We're at about 30 minutes right now, so that's good. Okay, so we have a duplicate of Atlantean Laura. So now we have 2. You can have more than one of the same obstacle in your obstacle deck. Run, I already have a bunch of that. Gnashing Teeth, that's cool. That's a trap obstacle. I don't have that yet. Another spike trap, another push that doesn't get used, another steel item, another Achilles heel, and a worst case. So again, a whole bunch of cards that I can't really use from that deck. And let's do one more. I'd like to get another character. And what do we have? No, Cool Shades. That's pretty cool. I don't have that one yet. That's a neat item discovery. The run action, got a bunch of those. Blinding Flash Trap. That's another obstacle. A Wellspring. I already have one of those in my deck. A Shotgun Ammo. That's cool. Insight and Action. Play after you roll a think test to add 3 to the results. That's good. Another Pit Trap and Rough Ground. Another obstacle. So yeah, that was just a really quick look at Tomb Raider, the collectible card game. It should have not been a collectible card game. It should have just been a card-based adventure game. I am hoping that the new Tomb Raider game that is on Kickstarter right now is much better. It looks much better. I think it looks fantastic. I love that it's focused on solo play. I love that the price is kept down, and I love the lack of bloat. So that has a lot of things going for it. But if you want to get your Tomb Raider itch scratched by this game, you can get a whole bunch of cards for not a lot of money. And I think with a little bit of tweaking, the rules could be better and you might have more fun with it. So all right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this look at Tomb Raider, the collectible card game. We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.